6 ways to defeat your own desires. Inside every person lives a hidden, hungry beast, the one that pushes you to spend more money than you have, eat more than your body needs, talk more than silence requires, and chase pleasures beyond what reason allows. Defeating enemies outside is easy, but conquering the desires within is the true test of strength. Here are 6 brutal, controversial but powerful ways to defeat your own desires. 1. Look straight at the naked truth of desire. Desire is mankind's most seductive enemy. It never walks into your life wearing chains and fangs. It wears perfume, glitter, and a smile. It promises to complete you, to give you meaning, to fill the emptiness inside your heart. But the truth, the naked truth that most people refuse to look at, is that desire is nothing but a liar dressed as a savior. Think carefully. That car you longed for, that phone you stayed up at night dreaming about, that relationship you thought would finally make you whole. How long did the satisfaction last? Days, weeks, perhaps months, and then, like smoke, it vanished. You were left with the same emptiness, the same restlessness, sometimes even deeper regret. The illusion was shattered, but only after you had already paid the price in money, time, dignity, or peace. That is why the first and most fundamental step in defeating desire is to strip it bare. Look straight at it, see it without the costume. Stop painting it with fantasies of how good it will feel, and start asking how rotten it will leave you afterward. Desire only looks like gold because you refuse to stare at the rust beneath the shine. Desire as illusion. Psychologists and philosophers have long pointed out that desire isn't about the object, it's about the fantasy. Your brain lights up not when you have something, but when you anticipate having it. Dopamine spikes at the thought, not at the reality. That is why you feel excited in the store, but indifferent once you own the product. It's why the thrill of lust fades the moment the act is over. It's why gamblers keep betting even after winning. The high isn't the reward, it's the chase. This means desire is not designed to fulfill you. It is designed to keep you chasing. Like a cruel master dangling a carrot before a donkey, desire keeps you running endlessly, never allowing you to rest, never allowing you to feel whole. And most people live their entire lives running, never daring to stop and ask, what if the carrot was never real? The brutal questions. If you want to strip desire, you must be brutally honest with yourself. The next time a craving rises, pause and interrogate it. Ask, how long will this actually satisfy me? What will I feel an hour later, a day later, a year later if I repeat this? Would I still want this if nobody else knew about it? These questions burn through the costume of desire. The sweet food becomes sickness. The shiny purchase becomes debt. The fling becomes betrayal. The angry outburst becomes humiliation. Desire withers under scrutiny because desire has no substance. It is a shadow pretending to be fire. The ancient warnings. The ancients understood this better than we do. The Stoics warned that unchecked desire enslaves the soul. Epictetus declared, freedom is not achieved by satisfying desires, but by eliminating them. Buddhism went further, naming craving itself as the root of suffering. Christianity called desire's extremes deadly sins: lust, greed, gluttony. Across civilizations, the wisest men did not teach indulgence, they taught mastery. Yet in our modern age, mastery is mocked and indulgence is glorified. Advertisements tell us happiness is one purchase away. Social media convinces us we are failing if we do not indulge like others. This is not wisdom, it is manipulation. Industries profit when you remain blind. The courage to see clearly. Looking straight at desire is painful. It forces you to admit that most of what you crave is not noble, not necessary, not even meaningful. It is pathetic distraction. That hurts. Nobody likes to see themselves as weak, greedy, or foolish. But that sting of honesty is the first taste of freedom. When you see desire for what it truly is, you are no longer its slave. Imagine the moment when temptation comes. You want to shout in anger, to eat more, to buy impulsively, to betray trust. Most people see only the glow, But you pause, you look deeper, you imagine the aftermath, the regret, the shame, the debt, the broken relationships. Suddenly, the glow fades, the lie is exposed, and in that moment of clarity, you win, not by suppressing desire, but by destroying its illusion. Desire shapes identity. Here is a truth most avoid. You are what you repeatedly desire. If you let cravings rule, your identity will rot. You will be remembered not for strength, but for weakness. People do not admire the man who indulged in every pleasure. They admire the one who conquered himself. No one celebrates the glutton, the addict, the impulsive spender, but history bows before those who looked at desire naked and said, "You do not own me." The high of mastery, stripping desire bare, is not about punishing yourself. It is not about living in gray misery. It is about discovering a higher, deeper pleasure, the joy of self-mastery. The smoker who resists the cigarette feels power no smoke can deliver. The spender who resists the impulse feels freedom no purchase can provide. The man who resists lust feels dignity stronger than any thrill. This high is sharper, cleaner, more lasting than indulgence, but it is hidden. You can only taste it if you dare to stare desire in the eye and strip it of its lies. So the next time desire whispers in your ear, don't obey, don't run, don't indulge, stop, stare, ask the brutal questions, picture the aftermath, tear off the costume and see the naked truth. You will find it ugly. You will find it hollow. And in that moment, you will find yourself free. Because here is the final truth. Most people live and die chasing lies. But those who dare to see desire naked, those who strip it bare, those who refuse its illusions, they are the ones who taste true freedom. 2. Put yourself into deliberate shortage. If desire feeds on anything, it is abundance. The more comfort surrounds you, the more fragile you become, and the more you are ruled by your cravings. Modern life has given us everything at our fingertips. Food delivered in minutes. Entertainment available instantly. Credit cards that buy now and worry later. And yet, paradoxically, never has humanity been weaker, softer, more enslaved to desire. Why? Because abundance fattens the beast. Comfort makes the cage invisible. That is why the second weapon against desire is controversial and frightening to most people. You must deliberately put yourself into shortage. Not because life forces you into it, but because you choose it. Voluntary discomfort is the ultimate training ground. When you walk into shortage willingly, you shatter the illusion that desire is necessary for survival. Why shortage? Think of the soldier. He trains in mud, in hunger, in exhaustion, not because he enjoys it, but because when real war comes, nothing can break him. Now think of the average modern man. He panics if the Wi-Fi drops, collapses if he misses one meal, grows restless if his phone dies. Who is stronger? Who is free? Strength is born in shortage, weakness in comfort. Desire survives only because you fear lack. You eat not because you are starving, but because you cannot tolerate hunger for even an hour. You buy not because you need, but because you cannot tolerate feeling less than others. You scroll endlessly not because you are interested, but because you cannot tolerate boredom. If you can learn to sit with lack, to embrace hunger, boredom, silence, you cut the leash of desire. The practice of voluntary discomfort. So how do you put yourself into shortage? The practices are simple but brutal. Food. Skip a meal intentionally. Don't eat because you deserve it. Don't snack because you're restless. Let hunger rise like a storm, and then watch it fade. Hunger is not endless. It comes in waves. When you discover you can ride the wave, you realize food cravings are not chains. They are illusions. Technology. Turn off your phone for 24 hours. Notice how your fingers itch, how your brain invents excuses, how phantom vibrations haunt you. That is addiction speaking. But wait long enough, and silence becomes sweet. Your mind begins to breathe again. Money. Live a week spending only on essentials. No treats, no luxuries, no unnecessary swipes of the card. Desire will scream, "But I need this little thing." Endure the scream. Watch how quickly it dies when denied. Comfort. Sleep on the floor for a night. Take a cold shower. Walk instead of driving. These acts sound extreme, but they teach your body a priceless truth. I can endure more than I thought. The goal is not punishment. It is revelation. By embracing shortage, you prove to yourself that desire cannot kill you. You expose its lies. Ancient wisdom of shortage. The Stoics called this practice voluntary discomfort. Seneca wrote of sleeping on hard ground, eating coarse bread, wearing rough clothes, asking himself, "Is this what I feared?" The answer was always no. The Buddhists practiced fasting and meditation in silence, stripping life down to nothing, discovering that the soul survives even without indulgence. Even modern science confirms that controlled stress, fasting, cold exposure, strenuous exercise, strengthens body and mind. But modern culture mocks this. It tells you any form of lack is cruelty, that you owe it to yourself to always be comfortable. And so people live in constant pampering, but collapse at the smallest challenge. They are strong on the outside but brittle within. Comfort is the real enemy. Here is the controversial truth. Suffering is not your enemy, comfort is. Suffering hardens, teaches, forges. Comfort softens, weakens, enslaves. Every empire in history has collapsed not because of hardship, but because of luxury. Men who were once fierce became soft. Women who were once resilient became fragile. Children who were once disciplined became spoiled. Abundance always rots the soul faster than hardship. Look at the modern person drowning in depression, anxiety, addictions. Are they suffering from too little food, too little entertainment, too little comfort? No, they are drowning in excess. They are sick not from shortage, but from surplus. Shortage builds resilience. The greatest gift of voluntary shortage is resilience. When you deliberately practice hunger, silence, restraint, then when real crisis comes, you do not break. The man who has fasted can endure famine. The woman who has lived with less can survive loss. The child who has practiced silence can endure loneliness. Those who fear shortage are fragile. Those who embrace it are unbreakable. Think of two men. One always eats until full, sleeps on soft beds, lives surrounded by plenty. The other sometimes skips meals, sometimes sleeps on the floor, sometimes lives with less. When famine or chaos comes, the first man panics, collapses, begs. The second man adapts, survives, even thrives. Which one are you training to become? The medicine of lack. But here is another uncomfortable truth. Shortage is medicine. Yes, it tastes bitter, but it heals. Think of the addict who refuses to face withdrawal. He stays hooked because he cannot tolerate the pain of shortage. But the one who endures the pain, who sweats, shakes, and survives, it is he who becomes free. Desire works the same way. Only by enduring lack do you break its chains. Most people, however, would rather stay chained than suffer a little. They would rather keep feeding the beast than starve it. That is why desire rules them forever. But you, if you are willing to embrace lack, can starve the beast until it dies. The hidden joy. At first, shortage feels like hell. Hunger burns. Silence echoes. Discipline stings. But slowly, something shifts. The body grows lighter. The mind grows sharper. Pride replaces shame. You begin to enjoy the clean, deep joy of control. The cold shower that once felt like punishment becomes a thrill. The skipped meal that once felt like torture becomes clarity. The silence that once felt like emptiness becomes peace. Shortage reveals that you never needed half the things you thought you did. And in that revelation lies freedom. The challenge. So here is the challenge. Choose one area of your life and deliberately create shortage. Skip the snack. Turn off the phone. Save the money. Take the cold shower. Do not wait for life to force discomfort upon you. Choose it now. Every time you embrace shortage, you grow stronger. Every time you reject it, you feed weakness. Because the raw truth is this: He who cannot endure lack will always be a slave to desire. But he who embraces lack becomes indestructible. 3. Dare to face the humiliation desire brings. Desire is seductive because it promises glory. It whispers, "Just give in, and you'll feel alive. Just taste it, and you'll be fulfilled. Just one more time, and happiness is yours." But what it never shows you is the ending. Desire is like a salesman who only advertises the pleasure and hides the cost. The truth, the part you don't see when your blood is burning and your body is screaming, is that every uncontrolled desire ends not with fulfillment, but with humiliation. Look at the drunk stumbling through the streets at 2 a.m. Vomit staining his shirt. Dignity evaporated. Look at the gambler. Eyes empty. Pockets turned inside out. Debts piled higher than his hope. Look at the adulterer. Once intoxicated with forbidden thrill, now exposed in shame. Rejected. Alone. What connects them all? The fact that they never dared to face the humiliation in advance. They only saw the pleasure. They refused to see the aftermath. And by refusing to see it, they guaranteed they would live it. That is why the third way to defeat desire is brutal but necessary. You must dare to face humiliation before it arrives. Borrowing shame in advance. Most people only wake up when humiliation slaps them across the face. But by then, it's too late. The damage is done. The money is gone. The trust is broken. The dignity is destroyed. The wise take a different path. They borrow shame in advance. They imagine the worst possible humiliation that could follow an indulgence, and they use that image as a shield. Picture this. You are craving fast food at midnight. Instead of picturing the fries, picture yourself standing on a scale, heavier, breathing harder, disgusted with your reflection. You want to lash out in anger? Instead of picturing the satisfaction of yelling, picture yourself afterward, humiliated, relationships strained, your words haunting you. You are tempted by lust? Instead of picturing the thrill, picture the look of betrayal on your partner's face, the whispers behind your back, the cold loneliness after trust is destroyed. When you picture humiliation vividly enough, desire loses its sweetness. This practice is not pessimism, it is realism. Desire hides the ending. You are forcing yourself to see it. Why humiliation hurts more than pain. Pain fades. A broken bone heals. A cut closes. A burn scars over. But humiliation? That lingers. It follows you into rooms. It whispers in conversations. It stains reputations for years. You can recover from pain, but humiliation clings to your name, to your memory, to your very identity. And that is why desire is so dangerous, not because it gives you pleasure, but because it risks your dignity. Think about it. Why are people terrified of public speaking, of failure, of rejection? Because humiliation cuts deeper than pain. That is exactly what unchecked desire threatens. Every indulgence is a gamble with your reputation, with your pride, with your dignity. Every time you lose, you don't just pay with money or health, you pay with shame. Historical lessons of shame. History is littered with examples of men and women destroyed not by enemies, not by poverty, but by their own desires. Kings who lost empires because they could not control their lust. Generals who lost wars because they drowned in drink. Politicians who lost power because they stole for greed. Celebrities who lost fame because they chased indulgence. Do you notice the pattern? They weren't ruined by lack of talent. They weren't ruined by lack of opportunity. They were ruined by humiliation. And humiliation was born from desire. Now here's the uncomfortable truth. Humiliation is not just a punishment, it is also a teacher. For some, it is the only thing strong enough to break the cycle. The alcoholic who refuses to stop until he wakes up in his own vomit. The addict who refuses to quit until they're arrested. The cheater who refuses to change until they are caught. For these people, humiliation is the only language they understand. But wouldn't it be wiser to speak that language early, in your imagination, before reality forces it on you? The exercise of humiliation. Here is a practice you can adopt immediately. Write down your strongest temptation. Next to it, write every humiliating consequence that could follow if you gave in. Be vivid. Be brutal. Write about the look on your children's faces, the gossip among your colleagues, the silent judgment of your spouse, the way your body would rot, the way your reputation would collapse. Keep that list close. When desire rises, read it out loud. At first, it will sting. It will feel harsh, but slowly, you will realize that fear of humiliation is stronger than the thrill of indulgence. You are weaponizing shame instead of being destroyed by it. Desire's trick. Showing half the story. The key is to remember that desire always shows you only the first half of the movie. The laughter, the sweetness, the warmth, the thrill. It cuts off before the second act, the sickness, the debt, the betrayal, the emptiness. By daring to face humiliation, you are forcing yourself to watch the whole film. And once you see the whole film, indulgence loses its power. Who wants to watch a movie when they know the ending is misery? Invisible victories. Here's the paradox. When you resist desire by picturing humiliation, no one applauds you. No one sees your victory. There are no claps, no medals, no cheers. But the victory is real. You keep your dignity intact. You keep your reputation clean. You keep your future undamaged. These invisible victories are the ones that shape a life worth respecting. And here's the second paradox. When you live this way long enough, people won't even realize you are practicing restraint. They will simply call you trustworthy, disciplined, wise. They won't see the battles you fought in silence, the humiliations you imagined and avoided. But you will know, and that knowledge is enough. Humiliation is freedom. In the end, humiliation is not the enemy. It is a mirror. It shows you who you become when you let desire own you. To stare into that mirror willingly is terrifying, but it is also liberating. Because once you accept how ugly the ending is, you are free to reject the beginning. So dare to face humiliation. Dare to taste the bitterness in advance. Dare to let shame guide you before it destroys you. Because the people who master desire are not stronger than you. They are simply more honest about its consequences. The challenge. Tonight, when desire comes, don't fight it with willpower alone. Fight it with imagination. Picture yourself humiliated, your dignity shredded, your reputation gone. Let that image burn. And then, refuse. Not because you hate pleasure, but because you love dignity more. Because here is the raw truth. People don't remember your pleasures. They remember your humiliations. And if you don't dare to face them now, the world will force you to live them later. 4. Replace cheap desires with greater aspirations. There is a dangerous confusion in modern life. People mistake cheap desires for noble aspirations. They think their cravings are dreams. Their indulgences are ambitions. Their distractions are passions. But the truth is this. Desire and aspiration are not the same. One makes you smaller. The other makes you greater. One fades in minutes. The other lasts a lifetime. If you cannot separate them, you will waste your life chasing crumbs while believing you are feasting. The difference between desire and aspiration. Desire says, eat now, buy now, sleep now, indulge now. Aspiration says, build something, grow stronger, endure, create, become. Desire is shallow, born from the body. Aspiration is deep, born from the soul. Desires are about consumption. Aspirations are about contribution. Desires vanish the moment they are satisfied. Aspirations grow the more you pursue them. Think of it this way. A desire is like firewood, it burns quickly, giving off heat, but soon turns to ash. An aspiration is like the sun, it burns forever, giving life, shaping everything it touches. And yet, most people trade the sun for scraps of firewood. The tragedy of cheap desires. How many hours have you wasted scrolling on your phone? Binge watching shows, indulging in gossip, eating what you didn't need, buying what you couldn't afford. Be honest, those hours are gone. They did not make you stronger, wiser, freer. They made you weaker. duller, emptier. That is the tragedy of desire. It feels like life while you are indulging, but feels like death once it passes. Now ask yourself, what if those same hours had been poured into building a skill? Writing a book, starting a business, forging a body, creating art, mastering an instrument? Where would you be today? The answer is painful, because it reveals this harsh truth. Most people don't fail because of lack of potential. They fail because they traded aspiration for desire. Substitution, not suppression. Here's the secret. You cannot kill desire by force. The human heart cannot live in a vacuum. If you try to suppress all desires without replacing them, you will fail. The void will grow, and cheap cravings will crawl back stronger than before. That is why monks, Stoics, philosophers, and sages all taught the same principle: substitution. You do not merely resist cheap desires, you replace them with greater aspirations. Think of the man addicted to gambling. If you simply say, "Stop gambling," he may stop for a week, a month, but the void of thrill will drag him back. But if he replaces that craving with the thrill of building a business, suddenly the cheap desire shrinks. Think of the woman addicted to gossip. If you simply tell her to be silent, she will burn inside. But if she replaces gossip with the aspiration to teach, to write, to share wisdom, she finds fulfillment. Desire cannot be killed. It must be redirected. The brutal questions of aspiration. If you want to replace desires with aspirations, start by interrogating your own pursuits. Ask yourself, does this make me stronger or weaker? Will this still matter to me 5 years from now? Would I be proud to tell the world I'm chasing this? If the answer humiliates you, it's a desire. If the answer dignifies you, it's an aspiration. The man who spends nights drinking cannot brag about it with pride. The man who spends nights building a company, writing a book, or training his body can. Pride is a compass. It points you away from desire and toward aspiration. The controversial truth about love, status, and success. Here is where the truth stings most. Many things people call dreams are nothing but desires wearing masks. The man who chases women endlessly is not ambitious. He is enslaved to lust. The woman who obsesses over handbags and luxury brands is not aspirational. She is enslaved to insecurity. The worker who wants promotion only to look down on others is not hungry for growth. He is enslaved to ego. But the man who aspires to build a family where love thrives, that is aspiration. The woman who aspires to build wealth not for show, but for freedom and security, that is aspiration. The worker who wants promotion because he seeks responsibility and mastery, that is aspiration. The difference is everything. One rots your soul, the other shapes your destiny. History remembers aspirations, not desires. History never remembers the indulgent. Who recalls the glutton who ate the most? The gambler who bet the highest? The drunk who drank the hardest? No one. But history remembers those who replaced cheap cravings with noble missions. Caesar chose power over indulgence. Socrates chose truth over comfort. Gandhi chose freedom over luxury. Their names endure because they lived by aspiration, not desire. And here's the paradox. In their pursuit of aspiration, they found deeper joy than indulgence could ever give. The man who trains his body may feel pain, but he feels the pride of strength. The woman who studies late into the night may feel tired, but she feels the joy of mastery. The artist who sacrifices comfort for creation may feel lonely, but he feels the ecstasy of giving birth to beauty. Aspiration delivers joy through struggle. Desire delivers misery through ease. How to practice replacement. So how do you practice replacing desires with aspirations? Start small. When you crave sugar, redirect that craving into fitness. When you crave gossip, redirect it into study and conversation that uplifts. When you crave shopping, redirect it into saving and investing for a greater mission. When you crave lust, redirect it into building real intimacy or creating art fueled by that energy. Every time you replace instead of suppress, you train your mind to hunger for higher things. Over time, the cheap urges grow weaker, and the noble ones grow stronger. The soul's hunger. Here is the deepest truth. Your soul is starving. It is not starving for more food, more sex, more toys, more distractions. It is starving for meaning. It craves a mission, a purpose, a mountain to climb. When you feed it with cheap desires, it grows sick. When you feed it with great aspirations, it grows alive. That is why the happiest people are not those who indulge most, but those who pursue something greater than themselves. The entrepreneur who builds, the parent who sacrifices, the artist who creates, the philosopher who teaches. They may endure struggle, but their struggle gives them dignity, and dignity outlasts pleasure. The final choice. So the choice before you is simple. Live as a slave to cheap desires, or live as a master of great aspirations. Cheap desires will give you sugar highs and long regrets. Great aspirations will give you struggle and lasting pride. One makes you hollow, the other makes you whole. Replace desires with aspirations. Trade the firewood for the sun. Stop feeding the beast inside with crumbs and start feeding your soul with mountains. Because in the end, no one will remember the nights you indulged, but they will remember the life you built when you chose aspiration over desire. 5. Create harsh rules for yourself. If there is one bitter truth about human beings, it is this: left to their own devices, most people collapse into weakness. Without boundaries, without rules, without order, the human mind becomes the perfect servant of desire. You think you are free when you do whatever you want, but in reality you are being manipulated by impulses. Freedom without law is not freedom, it is slavery. The only way to break free from desire is to become your own master. And the only way to become your own master is to create harsh rules for yourself and obey them with absolute discipline. The myth of freedom. Our culture worships the idea of freedom. You hear it everywhere. Do what makes you happy. Follow your heart. Don't let anyone tell you no. But if you look closely, this so-called freedom is nothing more than indulgence disguised as liberation. The man who eats whatever he wants is not free. He is chained to his stomach. The woman who spends recklessly is not free. She is chained to debt. The addict who cannot go one day without his fix is not free. He is enslaved to chemicals. Real freedom is not the ability to say yes to every urge. Real freedom is the ability to say no, to refuse temptation, to silence cravings, to choose your path without being dragged by impulse. That is why rules are necessary. Rules are not prisons, they are shields. They protect you from your weaker self. Why harsh rules work? Soft rules do not work. I'll only eat junk food sometimes. I'll only drink on weekends. I'll only scroll my phone for a few minutes. Soft rules bend, and the moment desire pressures them, they break. That is why your life does not change. You negotiate with desire, and desire always wins. Harsh rules, on the other hand, do not bend. They are absolute. No food after 9 p.m., no gambling, ever, no phone in the bedroom. These are not suggestions. They are laws, and laws, once written into your identity, remove negotiation. There is no debate, no excuse, no wiggle room. Desire thrives in the gray zone. Harsh rules destroy the gray zone. Ancient codes of discipline. Every great civilization understood this principle. Monks lived by vows of silence and poverty. Samurai lived by bushido, willing to die rather than break their code. Stoics lived by strict principles of restraint. Even in modern times, elite athletes and CEOs live by routines that outsiders call extreme. Waking at 4 a.m., training daily, measuring diet, cutting off distractions. These are harsh rules, and these rules create excellence. Weak people call it prison. Strong people call it freedom. Examples of harsh rules. If you want to understand the power of harsh rules, here are some examples. Food rule. No eating after 9 p.m. No exceptions. Hunger teaches restraint. Money rule. Never spend more than 30% of your income on wants. If you crave more luxury, earn more first. Work rule. No entertainment until meaningful work is done. Pleasure must follow duty, not replace it. Sleep rule. Phone off and out of the room at 11 p.m. No negotiations. Notice the absolutes. Not, sometimes. Not, only a little. Desire loves, only a little. That is how it traps you. Harsh rules cut off that escape route. The critics of discipline. Of course, people will mock you. They will call you extreme, rigid, even joyless. But look at their lives. Obesity, debt, addictions, broken families. They laugh at discipline, but they cry in regret. They trade long-term dignity for short-term indulgence. Rules may look harsh in the moment, but they save you from harsher realities later. Refuse the rule of saving, and you will face the rule of debt collectors. Refuse the rule of health, and you will face the rule of disease. Refuse the rule of loyalty, and you will face the rule of shame. One way or another, you will live under rules. The only choice is whether you choose them, or life chooses them for you. Rules simplify life. Another overlooked truth. Rules simplify life. Most people waste enormous energy negotiating with themselves. Should I eat this? Should I skip the gym? Should I check my phone? Every question drains willpower. With harsh rules, the decision is already made. You don't ask, you act. This simplicity is liberation. It removes inner chaos and replaces it with clarity. The harshest rule of all. The harshest rule is also the most liberating. Never negotiate with desire. The moment you sit at the table to argue, you have already lost. Desire is clever. It knows how to twist logic, how to disguise indulgence as self-care, how to make exceptions look harmless. You cannot reason with it. You can only shut the door. That is what harsh rules do. They shut the door before the argument begins. The invisible benefits. Here's the paradox. No one applauds you for following your rules. No one claps because you skipped dessert, saved money, or kept your phone off. These victories are invisible, but they compound silently, over months and years. They shape your health, your wealth, your relationships, your dignity. And one day, people will look at you with respect and wonder. How did they do it? The answer will be simple. Harsh rules. The pain of discipline versus the pain of regret. The world offers you two kinds of pain. The pain of discipline or the pain of regret. Discipline hurts now but heals later. Regret feels sweet now but poisons later. Choose discipline, and you suffer for minutes but gain for decades. Choose indulgence, and you smile for minutes but bleed for decades. Harsh rules are the tools that protect you from the second pain. The challenge. So here is the challenge. Write down 3 harsh rules for yourself this week. Not soft rules. Not, sometimes. Make them absolute. Live by them as if your life depends on it, because it does. Every time you obey, you weaken desire's grip. Every time you disobey, you feed the beast. Remember this raw truth. The man without rules will always kneel before desire. But the man with harsh, unbreakable rules will look desire in the eye and laugh. 6. Learn to enjoy control instead of indulgence. We live in an age where indulgence is glorified as the highest form of living. Billboards shout, "You deserve this." Social media parades endless videos of luxury, consumption, and instant gratification. Culture tells you that the more you indulge, the more free and happy you are. And yet, look at people. Restless, depressed, addicted, anxious, overweight, overstimulated, overworked yet underfulfilled. If indulgence was the path to happiness, wouldn't we be living in a golden age of joy? Instead, we are drowning. Why? Because indulgence is not joy, it is bait. The truth is harsh. The deepest pleasure in life is not indulgence, but control. The false promise of indulgence. Indulgence feels good in the moment. The cake tastes sweet. The drink warms your throat. The purchase excites you. The lust burns hot. But what comes after? Guilt, emptiness, regret. You wake up bloated. You check your bank account in panic. You feel the shame of betrayal. Indulgence is like a spark in the dark. It glows for a moment, then leaves you in deeper darkness than before. Control, on the other hand, does not glow, it burns steadily. It gives you pride, dignity, strength. It gives you the power to look at desire, stare it in the eye, and say, "You do not own me." That moment of control is intoxicating in a way indulgence can never be. It is cleaner, sharper, stronger. Control as true freedom. People think freedom is doing whatever you want. But if you do whatever you want, who's in charge? Not you. Your cravings are in charge. Your impulses are in charge. Your hormones are in charge. That is not freedom. That is slavery dressed as liberty. Real freedom is the ability to choose. To say yes when it matters. To say no when it matters more. The man who cannot stop himself from overeating, overspending, or overindulging is not free. He is a prisoner to desire. The woman who cannot resist gossip, shopping, or toxic relationships is not free. She is chained to impulses. Only those who control themselves are free. Why control feels better? Think of the last time you resisted something powerful. Maybe you wanted to scream in anger, but you held your tongue. Maybe you wanted to waste money, but you walked away. Maybe you wanted to binge food, but you stopped. What did you feel afterward? Power, pride, respect for yourself. That feeling lasted far longer than the cheap thrill would have. That is the joy of control. The smoker who throws away his last pack feels higher than any puff could give. The drunk who refuses a drink feels stronger than any buzz could deliver. The spender who saves feels richer than any purchase could create. Control feels better because it gives you not just pleasure, it gives you identity. It proves you are the master, not the servant. Control as transformation of energy. Here's a deeper truth. Desire itself is energy. Lust is energy. Hunger is energy. Anger is energy. If you indulge, that energy is wasted. It burns out quickly. But if you control it, you can transform it. Lust becomes creativity. Hunger becomes discipline. Anger becomes courage. Control is not about killing energy. It is about channeling it into greatness. History proves this. The greatest artists, warriors, philosophers, and leaders all felt the same desires we feel. But instead of indulging, they controlled. They channeled the fire of lust into art, the fire of hunger into discipline, the fire of anger into justice. That is why they rose above the masses. The difference was not lack of desire. The difference was mastery over desire. The muscle of self-mastery. Of course, control feels hard at first. It stings. It feels unnatural. But like any muscle, self-mastery grows stronger with use. The first time you deny a craving, it feels like torture. The 10th time, it feels easier. The 100th time, it feels natural. Eventually, you begin to crave control itself. You prefer it. You enjoy it. The man who once loved cigarettes now loves the clean lungs of freedom. The woman who once loved spending now loves the sight of money growing. The addict who once loved chaos now loves the peace of restraint. Indulgence is addictive, but so is control. And once you get hooked on mastery, you will never want to go back. Why most people fail? Most people never taste the joy of control because they quit too soon. They endure the first wave of discomfort and break. They never discover that if they waited just a little longer, the wave would pass and pride would replace it. They give in, then justify it. Life is short. You only live once. I deserve this. But YOLO is not wisdom, it is surrender. Life is not short. Life is wasted when you hand it over to every craving. The invisible victories. The victories of control are invisible. Nobody claps when you skip dessert. Nobody applauds when you save money instead of spending it. Nobody cheers when you bite your tongue instead of lashing out. But these invisible victories are the bricks of character. They build you silently, shaping a person others respect, even if they cannot see why. One day, people will look at you and say, "How do they have such strength, such dignity, such peace?" They will not know the battles you fought in silence. but you will know, and that is enough. The highest pleasure. Here's the paradox. Indulgence gives pleasure to the body. Control gives pleasure to the soul. The body's pleasure fades quickly. The soul's pleasure lasts. The body craves endlessly. The soul, once fed with mastery, becomes calm, whole, unshakable. Which would you rather live for? The shallow moans of the body or the deep roar of the soul? The challenge. So here is the challenge. The next time desire calls, pause. Do not obey instantly. Do not indulge. Wait, breathe, endure. Let the wave rise. Let it crash, and let it pass. Then, taste the pride of surviving. That pride is sweeter than any indulgence. Seek it again. Multiply it. Become addicted to it. Because in the end, the greatest joy is not to own the world, but to own yourself. And that joy is found not in indulgence, but in control.